Good morning, everyone. I'm Captain Bill Lance of the Elyria Police Department Investigative Division, and I'm the lead investigator on this investigation. Before I begin today's briefing and providing that update on the investigative status and progress of this case, I want to first extend my appreciation to the Lorain County Sheriff's Office, their Detective Bureau specifically, that assisted us with gathering evidence relevant to this case and being there from day one. Specifically want to point out and recognize the technicians from the Lorain County Bomb Squad, as well as the federal partners that assisted with the materials that were discovered that particular day and their professionalism. Also would like to recognize the Ohio BCI, Bureau of Criminal Investigation, who assisted us in the collection and processing and analyzing evidence relevant to this case. To our federal partners at the FBI, we appreciate your assistance, your expertise, and it has been critical throughout the investigation. Lastly, I too would like to thank my investigative team for their role, the many hard hours in reviewing the evidence, in investigating this incident. As we continue our investigation into the tragic events on that date, it's important to understand that we see this as a two-pronged investigation. The first investigation is into the homicide of Officer Wagner and that on-duty death. Additionally, would be the attempted murder of several additional officers that were present at the scene. The second prong of this investigation is the officer-involved shooting aspect, which occurred during the armed engagement with the suspect, Michael Parker. The goal of the homicide investigation is to answer those critical questions that still remain. While we know when this occurred, where this occurred, and who's responsible, we want to namely understand the why. We are continuing to work to understand the suspect's plan, the suspect's motive, identify the intended targets, and again, we are still continuing to investigate to determine whether this individual acted alone or was influenced or assisted by others. As she well shared with you, and as we get to the presentation, you'll hear that at this point in the investigation, we believe that the suspect acted alone, and we have no evidence of any assistance at this point. It's all these questions that are at the center of our ongoing investigation efforts. Regarding the officer-involved shooting, at the conclusion of the investigation, all evidence will be presented to the Lorain County Prosecutor's Office for review in accordance with standard protocol for all incidents involving the use of deadly force by law enforcement personnel. I want to share that this has been a complex and challenging case, and we remain fully committed to conducting a thorough and objective investigation to determine the full scope of what occurred that day. The investigation included the collection of body-worn camera footage, in-car camera footage, other surveillance footage, radio traffic, physical evidence collected from the scene and from other scenes, statements from the involved officers, and forensic analysis of evidence collected. Today we will share with you what we presently know based upon the evidence, the suspect's capabilities, and the threat level that were faced by officers on July 23rd, 2025. I want to provide the caveat that this is the information as we best know it today, and as the investigation progresses, that information is subject to change. So again, just to quickly recap, on July 23rd, 2025, at approximately 1:05 p.m., an officer-involved shooting occurred in the city of Lorain, Ohio, at the dead end of Riverbend Drive, commonly known to the Lorain Police Department personnel as the Missouri Avenue Extension. The incident involved multiple officers and resulted in the on-duty death again of Officer Philip Wagner and gunshot injuries to Officers Peter Gale and Officers Brent Payne. The suspect, Michael Parker, was shot and killed by responding officers at the scene, and the investigation into the matter was conducted again in joint effort by the Elyria Police Department, Lorain County Sheriff's Office, Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Today we will share with you some of the details, again, of what we presently know based upon the evidence, as well as we're going to provide you with a timeline of key events and activities. And our goal is to be factual and transparent. I want to first start off by describing the area where this incident occurred. Riverbend Drive, Lorain, Ohio. On the screen, I want you to note a zoomed out view, but essentially in northern Lorain, Ohio, at the intersection of Colorado Avenue and Missouri Avenue, if you head southbound down that road, would be Riverbend Drive, displayed on the left side of the screen. And then on the right side is a zoomed in image of the area where this shooting occurred and where officers ultimately ended up responding and engaging the suspect. What I want to point out and what I want to really note is you can see on the left image over here, you got the Black River. The road pretty much is a dead end. There's no other area or no other way of accessing that area except by driving down the road or getting out on foot and going through the trees. What we learned during our investigation is the Riverbend Drive in Lorain is generally considered a quiet cul-de-sac, again off of Colorado Avenue. And that this area is used by walkers and joggers and people to use this recreationally, people walking dogs, using some of the nearby trails. And it's used recreationally because of the scenic views that it provides. Also during our investigation, when speaking with Lorain officers, we determined that this is an area that is commonly used by them to whether stop and eat lunch, write reports, complete paperwork, as was the case on July 23rd, 2025. And an update is it was initially suspected that the suspect was there and lying in wait. That he was at the scene ahead of time prior to officers. He was staged with his firearms and waiting. And after reviewing all the available evidence to us, what we determined is that's not the case, that officers were there first. We know in reviewing the evidence that Officer Gale, after picking up a pizza at the local Marco's Pizza, ended up traveling down to the scene and arrived there at 12:46 p.m. Officer Wagner arrived a few minutes later at 12:52 and pulled up directly next to Officer Gale.